So as a coach, spanning over several decades now, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to meet some really interesting people. And one of the really interesting guys I met early on was a man called Peter Simmons. Peter Simmons was in the Special Forces in World War II. He was in a unit called the Chindits, which specialised in guerrilla warfare against the Japanese soldiers. Peter was exceptionally tough. He was always still training every day. And when I met him, he'd already noticed that the generation coming up behind him was a lot weaker, a lot more, less resilient, shall we say. And it was one evening when he cooked me one of his amazing Indian dishes, because he'd been stationed in India, with some wine. He said to me something that really got to me, and it made me think about it for many months afterwards, actually. And I wrote it down because I always knew that later on it would be very insightful to the coming generations of just how relevant what he said was. And this is what he said. I've got it written down here. He said to me, "I feel sorry for your generation. You have no male role models anymore. And although many of you love your fathers, you certainly don't want to be like them." He said, "My father was the sort of man that led by example, with courage, and it made me want to be just like him. Your generation doesn't have that anymore, so you feel lost and misguided." That was such a powerful thing to say. When I heard that, it was particularly relevant for me because I grew up without my father. He stopped seeing me when I was about 9 years old. So the words had a profound impact on me, because I was about 20 years old when I met Peter for the first time. And I was still full of resentment, full of feelings of rejection and abandonment from my father. So those words were extremely powerful ones to hear. And I remember Peter being an avid exerciser, still working out daily. And I asked him, "What sort of exercise did you do when you was in the military?" And he laughed and he said, "Life was exercise, life was fitness." And he explained that when he was in the army, they used to march 2 hours through the jungle just to get breakfast, as well as carrying heavy cannons, heavy equipment, heavy rucksacks on their back. On top of that, they used to have to handle mules that used to carry their equipment, and they said they were incredibly aggressive and stubborn animals, and just trying to handle them was a form of strength training. So very different days. So for him, there was no designated time to exercise. His whole life was a form of exercise. So what I really learned from Peter was something that I'd already started to explore at the time, was that physical fitness and exercise is a way to develop character. Because once you get some sort of self-discipline, self-respect, self-worth within yourself, you start to view the world differently. You start to make it a better place. You start to explore possibilities for yourself, and that is worth its while. So you need to, well, the good thing about exercise, it breaks the chain of thought. It breaks the daily grind of life, and it makes you explore other possibilities, and it unites the mind and body together in that moment. Peter demonstrated to me that we can aim what we do at a moral character with this self-discipline and with this self-respect. And of course, this isn't easy. Peter was fortunate to live in a time when a moral character was admired and that self-respect was admired. We have a different society now. He lived in a time where values were still a very important part of one's character. I think it's important that these brave men from history are not just something we read about in history books, but something we try to keep alive within ourselves and be inspired by them and how they lived their lives and what they fought and what they died for, which is our freedom. So I think the best way we can honour them is by emulating their courage, by emulating their bravery in our daily lives. And this will counter the current trend of abandoning courage, of abandoning values. So if you aim your life at courage, you will change yourself and the world around you. And this isn't easy. Our world leaders and those that fund them are enticing immorality. They're enticing cowardice as a lifestyle. So by living with courage, we don't just change ourselves, but we encourage them to be better and raise their standards. So a meaningful life isn't found by being selfish, immoral and cowardly. It's found by being more. It's found by expanding courage as much as you can in every aspect of your life. It is a lifestyle. So try and choose love over hate. choose morality over immorality.